the maid who spoke like a queen. It was a quiet Thursday morning in the city. The sky was pale gray and the air was cool with the scent of rain. In one of the biggest estates in town stood a grand mansion, tall white walls, glass balconies, and guards stationed at the gate. Inside that mansion, a young girl named Amaka swept the tiled floor with careful strokes. She was dressed in a plain brown uniform, her hair packed simply and her face free of makeup. She looked no older than 22. She had just arrived in Lagos from the village 2 weeks earlier. Amaka didn't talk much. She didn't laugh loudly. She just did her job and quietly, respectfully, and always with her head slightly bowed. To many, that was enough, but not to everyone. "Amaka!" a sharp voice rang out. It was Titi, the fiancée of the mansion's owner. "Yes, Ma," Amaka replied quickly, dropping her broom and standing straight. "Are you deaf? Did I not tell you I don't like seeing these rugs wet after you mop? Must I always repeat myself?" "I'm sorry, Ma," Amaka said gently. Titi rolled her eyes. She was dressed in a designer tracksuit with gold earrings that dangled and danced every time she moved her head. She had sharp cheekbones, a confident walk, and a voice that often carried too much pride. "You village girls never listen," she added, walking off, heels clacking on marble. The cook laughed. So did the driver. Amaka picked up her broom again, eyes focused, heart steady. She had heard worse before. That evening, the owner of the house, Mr. Edward, returned from work. Tall, well-dressed, and quiet, he barely said anything to the staff as he walked in. He had inherited the estate from his late father and was managing the family business. Titi was already waiting for him in the living room. As usual, she poured wine and kissed his cheek. He smiled slightly but didn't say much. Edward was a man who kept things to himself. A good man, but tired of noise. "Your mum called," Titi said, sipping from her glass. "She's arriving from London on Sunday." Edward nodded. "I'll go pick her up." Titi smiled again, but in her mind she was already preparing. She wanted to impress Mama Edward. She wanted to become the woman of the house. Sunday came. Amaka had just finished washing when the house became busy. Cooks prepared food. Drivers polished the cars. Titi screamed instructions at everyone. By 4 p.m., the gate opened and a black SUV drove in. Out stepped Mama Edward, a regal-looking elderly woman in a flowing lace gown, her head tie neatly tied, gold bangles on her wrist. She was in her 60s but stood tall and walked gracefully. Her presence commanded respect. "Welcome, Ma," the staff chorused. Titi stepped forward, smiling too wide. "Mummy, welcome-o." Mama Edward looked at her with polite eyes. "Thank you," she said simply. Then her eyes scanned the compound and landed on Amaka, who stood quietly near the wall, eyes downcast. "Who is she?" the old woman asked. Titi scoffed. "Just the maid. One village girl from Enugu, don't worry, Mummy. I'll assign her somewhere far from your room. She's new." But Mama Edward wasn't done. She walked toward Amaka slowly. "You, what's your name?" "Amaka, Ma," the girl replied, eyes still down. "Where are your parents?" "My mother is late." "My father is a farmer," Amaka said quietly. "And you came here for work?" "Yes, Ma, to support my siblings. I'm the eldest." The old woman nodded slowly. "And you've been treated well here?" Titi laughed before Amaka could answer. "Mummy, please, she has been eating and sleeping fine. We treat her well. No need to act like she's a queen, I beg." But Mama Edward didn't laugh. Her eyes stayed on Amaka. "You may go," she said softly. Amaka bowed and left quietly. That night at dinner, Mama Edward turned to her son. "That girl, Amaka? There's something different about her." Edward looked up. "The maid?" "Yes, she speaks with quiet confidence. Her heart is clean." Titi rolled her eyes. "Mummy, please. She's just a common housemaid." "And yet she carries herself better than you," Mama Edward said calmly. Silence filled the room. Titi was shocked. The next few days passed, and Mama Edward continued observing Amaka. She saw how the girl cleaned without complaint, how she spoke softly to the gateman, how she listened more than she talked, and how she prayed at night in her corner of the boys' quarters. One morning, she called Amaka to her room. "Sit down," she said. Amaka hesitated. "Sit," she repeated gently. Amaka sat at the edge of the chair. "You remind me of myself when I was young," the old woman said. "I, too, was once a maid in another woman's house." Amaka's eyes widened. "Yes, before I met Edward's father, I served as a cook in a judge's home. It was there I learned grace, strength, and dignity. I rose, not because I was beautiful, but because I carried myself with worth." She leaned forward. "And I see that same worth in you?" Amaka's eyes filled with tears. "No one has ever said that to me. That's because most people only see uniforms, not souls." Later that week, Mama Edward asked her son to join her in the garden. "I have something to say," she began. Edward sat, waiting. "I don't like Titi. She is rude, proud, and empty." "Mum, let me finish. You are a good man, Edward. But love is not about body or makeup. It's about peace. That girl Amaka, she is poor, but her character is gold." Edward raised an eyebrow. "You want me to marry Amaka?" "No," she replied. "I want you to see her." Days passed. One afternoon, Edward came home early and saw Amaka, struggling to carry 2 large buckets of water from the back. He walked toward her silently. "Let me help you," Amaka gasped. "Sir?" "No, sir, please." "I insist," he said calmly. They carried the buckets together. And for the first time they spoke. Really spoke. He asked about her village. She told him about farming, her siblings, her dreams of one day owning a school. "A school?" he asked, surprised. "Yes, sir. For village girls. So they don't end up in kitchens their whole life like me." Edward stared at her, not with pity, but with respect. Weeks passed. And then one evening, Titi walked into the mansion with loud music playing from her phone. She was on a call. "Baby, don't worry," she said to someone. "Once I marry Edward, let me go control everything. Even that old woman Seth, she's too traditional, rubbish." She didn't know the phone had accidentally dialed Edward, who stood in the next room, listening to every word. His heart sank. The next day he told her, "We're done." Titi laughed. "You're joking." "No, pack your things." "Because of that low-class housemaid?" "No, because of your character." She stormed out, cursing. 1 month later, Edward called Amaka to the garden. "You once said you wanted to open a school." "Yes, sir," she said shyly. He reached into his pocket and handed her an envelope. "This is the land. I'm buying it for you. To build that school." Amaka shook her head, overwhelmed. "Sir, I can't accept—" "You can, and you must." Tears filled her eyes. "But I also want one more thing," he said. "What?" "For you to let me stand beside you, not as your boss, but as your husband." Amaka froze. The gardener stopped. Even the birds paused. She looked at him, heart racing. "You want to marry me?" "I want to marry the woman who carries dignity like royalty," Edward said. "Not because of your beauty, but because of your heart." 2 months later, Amaka walked down the aisle in a simple white dress. Mama Edward stood proudly beside her. People whispered, "That's the maid? She looks like a queen." She didn't need makeup to shine. Her dignity spoke louder than diamonds. And as Edward took her hand at the altar, he whispered, "From now on, speak, and I'll listen like I'm listening to royalty." And she did. The maid who spoke like a queen was now the queen who spoke like a wife. Lessons from the story. Real character is not shown through clothes, but through actions. Pride loses what humility wins. You never know who you're speaking to, so speak with respect. When a woman carries herself with dignity, she's already rich. Thank you for watching the story. Kindly share your thoughts about the story. With me in the comment section, give the story a thumbs up and share the story out with your loved ones. Subscribe to this channel if you've not done so by now until I bring another story your way. Bye.